All right, hello and welcome. Right here with clickmill.co. So in this video, we're going to start discussing the first way that we can filter out 99% of the decisions that we have to consider when we are doing ministry, when we're doing business. Okay, so as we've already discussed, there are so many options coming our way, so many decisions, so many problems. And the question is, how do we know which ones to consider? Because if you're really considering every opportunity that comes your way, especially as you see some growth, you are going to fall apart because there will be way too many things to think about and to consider. So the first filter, so in order to cut out opportunities and to cut out possibilities and ministry ideas, we have to apply filters. And the first filter that we're going to do to help filter out the noise is the filter of vision. And so when we have a vision that has been given to us, that God is communicating us to our life, for our life, or our ministry, our family, or our business, it's, hey, this is what the world looks like over here. This is what I want you to move to. This is what your vision, this is what your ministry is supposed to accomplish. An easy way to think about vision is this is what the world looks like when the purpose of the ministry of the business is accomplished. Okay, so if you think about hiking a mountain and you think about Mount Everest, when you get to the top of the mountain, what does the world look like? Because it looks a lot different than it does from the bottom. At the bottom, you're overwhelmed because you're looking at a giant mountain and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. When you get to the top, how does that is a life-changing experience, right? On the top of the world. This is what the world looks like. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. We see vision in the Bible. Yeah, you're going to go through all these terrible things and probably get killed by Pharaoh and probably die in the middle of the Red Sea and probably die in the wilderness and probably get killed by the giants. But you know what? You won't get killed, and actually you'll be in the land flowing with milk and honey. Oh, okay, it's totally worth it. That's the vision. What happens when we complete the mission and purpose of the organization? And so the first thing is we need to get a hyper clear vision. And the question is, how do we get a vision? Well, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same way we hear anything from God. We need to be asking God, where is it that you're calling my ministry to? In the same way that he's calling Moses to go and pull the Israelites out of Egypt and take them to the promised land. God is calling you, if you're here, you're a ministry leader, whether you're a business leader who's a believer or running a Christian ministry, you're a ministry leader. And he's calling you to go to a certain group of people, which we understand in many of these courses to be called your target audience when we're talking about marketing, and pull them out of wherever they're at and take them on a journey. If you go through the strategy section, that's the buyer journey. Go through a journey and then deliver them to a promised land that is better than where they began. And where is this promised land? This is what we're looking for to get a hyper clear vision. And there are a few ways to know the promised land. Number one, you're probably very passionate about something in particular. I personally am passionate about helping ministry leaders reach more people and doing it more effectively. And that's the promised land that it's my passion and my privilege to help you do. So how do we get to the place where we're reaching people, where we're making a difference in their lives and seeing them go deeper in their faith? So that's the vision God has called ClickMill to. Now, beyond that, how do we find that? Well, there's probably a passion, something that is just gripping you, and you cannot get away from it no matter what you do. That's one thing. We can also see this in any number of ways. We can see God's call on our life and on our ministry through scripture. So we could say, firstly, is it biblical? And this is just going back to our decision-making processes. Is the vision that we're thinking about, is it biblical? Well, it's got to be biblical. Is it wise? And wisdom is right choice. So if we're talking about, well, my ministry is to solve homelessness by handing out $100 bills from my personal bank account, and I'm going to do it full time. Well, where does that money come from? That's ridiculous. That could never work because you're just giving away money. How long is that going to last? It's going to last 5 minutes because you only have $500 in your account. That's not wise. So he's calling you to homelessness, but the strategy we've just thought about doesn't work. Okay. So is it biblical? Is it wise when we seek counsel? Are other people like, yes, people in the church who are wise themselves, who have fruitful ministries, are they saying this is amazing? You should pursue this. Okay. And then we can also, outside of our own, right? Because the fourth way we can do this, and I've already mentioned this, I think it's the most obvious is it something that you're passionate about and called to, or the church as a whole is passionate and called to? That's the easy one. And then lastly, if it's biblical and it's wise and we seek counsel, and counsel is saying, yes, this makes sense, and you're passionate about it. Lastly, we can seek confirmation. And like Gideon in the fleece in scripture, we can say, God, I really want to make sure we're going in the right direction, and please take this fleece and make the fleece wet and the ground dry. And this is what Gideon did. God is calling him and a very small group of people into battle. God said, send the whole army home and just take these couple hundred guys and go in and face this giant army. And Gideon's like, we're dead. And so what does he do? He gives the fleece test. He asks for confirmation. Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you right, because if I'm going to march these guys to their death, and me too, I at least want to make sure I heard you clearly. So I'm going to put this fleece out on the ground. When I wake up, have the dew make the fleece wet and the ground dry. And he wakes up the next day, and sure enough, fleece is wet and the ground's dry. And what does he do? He says, don't be upset at your servant. Just give me one more confirmation, because I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I want to make real sure that this makes sense and that I'm hearing you correctly. And then sure enough, the next day, this time the fleece is dry, but the ground is wet. And so he knows, okay, I'm called to take this small group of guys into battle. And then sure enough, they win miraculously. Okay, so how do we get a hyper clear vision? We go through maybe those 5 sort of biblical decision-making processes to find the vision that God has called us personally to, or our ministry to, or our business to, and we set the vision. And I think lastly, as we end this video and we get into the next one, when we get a vision, it's very common for Christian ministries to really have this big, long, fancy, flowing thing. And it's like a whole page in a book somewhere. And the problem with that is that nobody can remember that. And what does a vision do? A vision creates unity. When everybody is oriented to the same vision, we all know where we're going together. We can all be passionate together. Here at ClickMill, we're helping ministry leaders reach reach people more effectively with our interns. For those of you in the room right now, the goal is to train you guys so that when you go out, you can reach your communities more effectively than you could before, and even worldwide on the internet today. So we have to have a vision that is so simple. Everybody can hear it, and you just say it over and over and over, and it permeates everything you do. And so everybody in your audience knows, if I'm here, we do missions. We do missions to Zambia. We do outreach to the local homeless. We share the gospel with our work colleague, whatever it is, the purpose, the vision. We're creating a community where homelessness doesn't exist. I don't know how you do that, but if that's the vision, that everybody knows that's what we're doing. And it's so clear in business terms. How would you say what your business does? People call this an elevator pitch. And they say, you need to be able to tell me exactly what your company does in 60 seconds or less. You got to be able to say it on an elevator. And that's the same thing with our ministries. We need to be able to communicate the vision of our ministries so clearly that people can't help but remember it, because 99% of things we tell people they're going to forget. So it's got to be very powerful and very short. So get a hyper clear vision for your ministry. And in the next video, you're going to see how we're going to start filtering out tons of noise, opportunities, ideas that we could be doing with our programs and services and products, and however this works out for you, how we can filter out 99% of those without even thinking about it. All right. So thanks for being in this video. We'll see you in the next one where we're going to orient to the vision.